Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us once again Beyond the Veil. I'm Brett Rogers, and as always I am joined by the Master of Ceremonies, Lee Wise.
Good evening.
And tonight we're joined by a guest on the show. We're joined by our good friend Rachel.
Hello.
So to those who visit our Facebook page and Facebook group, you may recognise Rachel's name as she sometimes seen posting updates for us, and she's somewhat of our social media handler of sorts.
Yeah, I need to post a bit more, but yes.
You're doing all right. You're doing all right.
Helping
it's hard to get started.
Elderly people navigate the world of social media.
I'm not just as bad.
You're doing all right. I mean, we'll have to review you before we give you a pay rise, Rachel. But you're doing all right. But yeah, so tonight you're joining us just to share some of the spooky things that have happened to you over the years, and also some that have happened quite recently, aren't you?
Yeah, and I was just saying, I would never imagine I'd be on a podcast like this because I'm scared of everything. When I was telling my friends, they were like, "Oh, is it to do with musical theatre?" I was like, "No, it's to do with spooky things and haunted things."
Well, I think it's quite telling that is the case, that you are scared by everything, because we've had to leave extra lights on tonight.
I know. I was like, "Can we not do this in the total dark or anything?" Because
I don't want to be in the dark.
I won't sleep for the rest of the week.
But feel free to join us on our musical theatre podcast, which is coming soon.
In front of the veil, that one's called.
In front of the
So but obviously we're really excited. You've told us a lot of things anyway, but I think it'd be good to hear it sort of from the start right up to the present, really, because I mean, we all have a bit of a journey with different things, and they're not all connected. But you've had some weird stuff.
And it was when we was talking about spooky things, and then you saying, "Oh well, this one's happened to me," or "This one's happened to me," and then you start realizing that you've had in your life, you've had a few things that you just can't explain.
Yeah.
And my first one was when I was about 8 years old. I used to go stay at my nana's every weekend, and she didn't have a spooky house or anything like that. It was post-war 1950s style house, but I always used to get really weird feelings when I was in there, someone was watching me, but I didn't really know what that was because I was only about 8 or 9. But I do remember being I always used to think the cat was in the room with me or something. I'd be like, something's in the room.
Yeah, you just feel something.
And I don't know what it is.
I think that feeling is so strange. Everyone feels it, don't they? That feeling of being watched, as they call it.
Yeah, and I used to be like, no. She'd be downstairs and I'd be upstairs playing. If I ever went to the toilet, I got to the point where I'd have to run so fast to go to the toilet because I was like, something's watching me, something's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Brett. Everybody does feel it from time to time. But then I think the context of it is important. You're bound to feel that if you're in an old stately home looking around and you're on your own. You'd feel like someone was watching you, most probably.
Yeah.
But it's the sort of feeling that's unsettling in a domestic environment where you should feel safe and you know full well there's nobody else there.
Well, that's the bit that I can never really understand about that statement, quote unquote, the feeling of being watched. Because where does that sort of feeling really come from, especially when you know that you are alone? Because I think if you're in a setting where you'd expect to be watched, or at least the possibility of being watched, as you say, in a stately home, which might be very, very big, that there could be people around at that time, fair enough. But if you're in a stately home that was abandoned, why would you still feel like you was being watched?
I think it's your primitive brain reacting to a sense of danger. And again, that's why it makes it a bit strange when you're in a place where there isn't any danger, your grandma's house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or your own house. And as I say, full well you'd not being watched, so logically there's no other human being there. But for whatever reason you get that feeling in your brain and it lights up some danger zone in the brain there and you feel like you're being watched, and that's your brain's response to it. So I think perhaps there is a presence, and we've spoken about it before. It's why the House on Haunted Hill, is it called the House on Haunted Hill? The Haunted Hill House.
Yes. Yeah.
Do
you want me to edit that?
Yes, please.
I'm not.
The House on Haunted Hill. So anyway, that works because your subconscious picks up on all of the things that they're very cleverly put in. So there'll be a face under the table looking out that it's not designed for you to see it, but your brain sees it and your brain processes it. And it has the effect of making you feel uneasy, making you feel watched. So it's a scary thought that if you get that feeling of being watched, maybe something is watching you, but you've just not seen it.
Yeah. And as a kid, I was never into, like 8 or 9, I'm talking here, like I never watched scary things. Like I wasn't allowed, and I don't remember ever telling ghost stories at that age. I was like scared of everything as it was. Like it's not something I'd have been like, oh, I watched this scary thing on TV last night, so now I think there's a ghost in the house.
So it's like creeped you out and it's like put you on edge. Yeah, like, you know, especially being young and watching scary films. I mean, like, I remember I was only young when I watched Halloween, and the idea or the concept of Michael Myers really freaked me out. So when Halloween came around, I was just like, Michael Myers is going to come out. But that's it. If you've never, at that age, you never watched scary films, what was it that, you know what, that actually really reminds me of something. So I remember being really, really young at my grandma's house, and I don't remember doing it, but I remember that I'd drawn on my grandma's walls. Like I'd just drawn on them. And I didn't draw anything in particular. I was only maybe about 3 or 4 or something like that, and it was just lines. But I don't actually remember the drawing on the walls bit. But I remember my grandma.
You remember her giving you a good beating?
Well, she was the type. But she just came back in the room and she was like, who's done that? You know, I mean, it was a rhetorical question. But my answer was, it was a ghost.
Really?
Straight up. That was my answer. But how the fuck did I know what a ghost was when I was 3 or 4? I don't remember.
Well, we've always been freaks, so you probably did know.
I was probably possessed, wasn't I?
It's a fantastic excuse, so well done.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the fact that I came up with it was a ghost and I didn't even know what they were. I'm just a master of my craft.
I never even watched a horror film until I was about 14. The most scariest thing I watched was when I was 12 was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, I'm literally not...
That's Sarah Michelle Gellar!
You must have...
I'd have seen ghosts.
You must have watched Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, but we was about 12 or 13 when that was out, weren't we? And do you know what? I didn't watch it because I knew it was too frightening. But I did watch things like Scooby-Doo. I'd seen like a ghost on there, but that's like a cartoon ghost. So it's not until I'm an adult that I look back to being 8 or 9 in my nana's house and feeling like someone was watching me that I think, did I feel a presence? Because it gets creepier.
I was going to say, so how did it
went
carry on then?
I wanted to go to my nana's house every weekend, and then every weekend I'd get to my nana's house and be like, I daren't move. Like, I was scared.
I don't want to be here anymore.
And then she used to be like, are you tired? Like, why don't you go to bed? And I'd be too frightened to go to bed because I'd lay there under the covers and I could feel somebody watching me. It was like really freaky. And then this went on for maybe years. And there was one day we were getting in the car to go out, and I looked back at my nana's house and I said to her, Nana, you know your house? I was like, those windows upstairs. I was like, that one's your bedroom, and then that's the little bedroom, isn't it, where like my auntie sleeps sometimes. She went, yeah, why? And I was like, no reason. But there was a man looking out the window. There was a man looking out the window, and I can still see it.
Oh my God.
To this day, I can still see it. And we got in the car, and I was looking out the back of the car window, and he was still there. Because I was like counting the windows along, because I was like, that's my nana's bedroom. That'd be my auntie's bedroom. Like, have I got this? And I was like,
which room was it? Can you remember?
It was the smaller room, which was my auntie's room. But we were all like in the car. My auntie, my nana, and me was in the car. But this man that I saw, the only way I can describe him is he looked like he was almost like grey. Like clay, like clay colour. And he was wearing overalls, and he was just staring out the window. And even like I looked away and I looked back, and he was still there. And
is that the room you slept in?
No, I was staying in the other room. But I was like, I knew it was weird, and I can still picture it so clearly. And I never told my nana because I didn't want to frighten my nana, because I thought if she's going to freak out if she knows that I've seen a weird man looking out the window.
Jesus.
That is very creepy.
Yeah.
That is really creepy, yeah.
And I can't rationalise that at all. Because other things that have happened to me, which we'll talk about, I always try and think, oh, it could have been that. It could have been this. But that, like, now I can't think of anything.
Have you ever told like anyone in your family about that?
No, I've never told anybody. Just like, well, my cousins and stuff, but it's always been the kind of same response as you, like, oh, that's really creepy. Like, nobody's...
And that's what you get with this sort of thing. It's either, oh, that's creepy, or people laugh it off and
what a lot of
think, it was the imagination of a child or whatever. And I think when you said at the beginning of the podcast, Rachel, that it's only when you get talking about these things you realise, actually, that's happened to me, or that's happened to me. And I think part of it is you do over-rationalise when these things happen. So you quite normally and rightly look for a reasonable explanation, and you should always consider normal before paranormal. But I think sometimes it numbs you to perhaps what does happen, and you just don't even notice, or you just explain it away very easily.
So was he doing anything, or was he just stood perfectly
looking,
still, or was he like resting on the windowsill? Or
all I could see was him just looking out the window, watching the car leave. So he was watching us get in the car, because that's when I was like, which windows? Because I thought, how do I ask my nana this question without wondering why I'm asking, which windows belong to your house?
Yeah.
Like, I knew which windows belonged to her house, but I needed confirmation of why there was a man stood in one. And then when she said, I thought, oh, like, we got in the car, and literally as we was driving away, I turned and looked out the back window, and he was still there. And I kept thinking, like, what could it be? Like, it was weird. It was really weird. My auntie didn't have any weird cardboard cutouts in her bedroom. Do you know, like, nothing like that. It was just weird. It was a man.
It's just a cutout of John Major.
Yeah.
Just watching
that's just
us.
like giving me goosies thinking about it.
She must have been taking me home, because I don't remember going back to the house like later on that day or anything like that.
Good job, Good job. Bloody hell, yeah.
Did you ever think about it again? Like,
I must have done, because I still think about it to this day. Every day. No, I don't remember. I didn't tell like anybody, because I was worried that my nana would be frightened, and I didn't want it to get back to her. And if I told my mum and dad, I thought that they'd say, oh, Nana's house is weird, you can't ever go there. And I liked going, despite the fact I was terrified every weekend. So I just didn't tell anybody, which is weird, really, why I just kept it. Maybe I thought if I didn't say it wasn't real.
Well, there's probably also that thing of like, it would just be dismissed as the overactive imagination of a child, or possibly wanting attention or something like that. You know, I think you'd probably have that thing of like, well, if I told them, they won't believe me anyway. So, because, you know, I think you, as a kid, you even know that there will be things that people just won't believe you anyway, and on account of you being a kid.
My nana moved like not long after, really, and I've never told her. Maybe I should tell her now, but she's like 95 now.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, obviously, without saying where it is, do you still know where that house is? Is it still there?
No, they've been demolished, those houses.
Oh man!
Because of the ghosts. No.
There was a ghost infestation. They knocked it down.
Sometimes I think about going for a drive around that area, though, just to I don't know what's there now. I don't know if they built more houses where that was. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I might have to go for a little.
Well, on account of it being demolished, then whereabouts is it?
It was on North Hull,
right?
So it was near. Do you know, Sir Henry Cooper School? Yeah, it was near there. Yeah, because that's not there anymore, is it? That school?
No. Interesting. Yeah, you should probably go and have a drive around.
Yeah. It's interesting, the childhood stuff, and brings me to when you were saying about over rationalising or forgetting or whatever. But it's always been in my head. But I have this memory, I've told you guys before, of being at my granny's house, and at the back of her house it used to be just fields, and I was always obsessed with getting, running out onto the fields and faffing about out there. And Granny always used to say, don't go out there, there's all disused wells and you'll fall down one. But I was always still obsessed with getting out and into the fields. And one day I ran out, managed to get out. I think I was only very young, and my dad must have seen me, so he was on his way out to grab me. And I can picture it clear as day. But there was a table of people sort of eating soup, and they were dressed in a bit of an odd, old-fashioned way, like sort of cloth headscarves and things, and they were under a sort of tarpaulin type. It was fabric, but it was a kind of a tarpaulin, and they were all sat there eating, but they all stopped eating and just stared at me, and I stood and stared at them. And then my dad took me in, but he didn't see them.
Oh my God, that's
And
weird.
it was really strange.
It's like,
it's given me slight goosebumps thinking about it, because it was the way they just stopped and looked at me like what the hell are you doing here?
Is that what,
Yeah,
sometimes this goes on to like
but-
time slips. Like,
It does.
yeah.
It does. They didn't look at all like ghosts. They just looked like real people.
Like that, yeah.
But it was unusual the way they were dressed. It wasn't traditional, old-fashioned in any way.
Yeah.
It was just odd.
Well, I think that's the thing though with seeing a ghost is that, you know, the theory isn't that they are like vaporous or anything like that, are they? Is that you're literally just going to see a person that isn't actually physically there, but you're seeing just as you normally would. Because I remember this didn't happen all that long ago, but I was walking to work, and I think I told you.
Yeah.
And I passed Old Zoological pub there on the corner, corner of Princess Ave, and I was just walking past, and I just had this urge to look left to the pub, as if that feeling. I feel like I'm being watched, and I look left, and in one of the booths, because the lights on it, the lights are sometimes on in there in the morning. Clearly, they've got cleaner or whatever, or they're setting up ready for the day. And I looked to the left, and there was just this like young lady just sat in the booth, just staring straight, just completely dead faced, just nothing there at all. And I was like, that's weird, you know, like this don't feel right, you know, like, is she even looking out the window? Is she looking at something in front of her? So like trying to get like a view, trying to understand what I was looking at really. But I had noticed that coming round the corner ahead of me, before I turned to look in the window, I had noticed that there was this bloody, like, just this deadhead, you know, just like someone on drugs or drunk or whatever, just coming around the corner, and he had his sleeping bag with him, and he was all over the place, and I knew I had to be wary of him approaching me. So I thought, oh, I'll just look back and see whereabouts he is, just to keep an eye on, you know, if he's any closer to me or whatever. And then as I saw him, I was like, okay, right, that's where he is. Look back, gone. Just nothing there. And I was like, oh, well, maybe it was like the cleaner, and they've just been sat down a second, and then they've just, you know, maybe bent down to pick something up or something like that. So I looked, and I was like, I can't see anyone walking around in there. So I looked back again to see where this guy was, because he was getting closer and closer, and I could hear him, and he was ranting to himself. And then when I looked back again, still wasn't there. Just completely gone. And the entire floor of that pub, every window I looked in, there was no one there.
That's weird.
And it was so strange. And that, for me, was like this feeling like, it was almost like the only way I could describe it was like I'd seen something I shouldn't have seen. It was like this feeling of like, my brain's, because I can't even describe like her features anymore. Like, you know, like when you've had a dream and you can only recall bits. It's like I can't even see her face now. It's like my brain won't let me.
That's strange in itself.
It is like my brain won't let me remember it properly. You know, like as if I've seen something I shouldn't have seen. It's the most strangest feeling I've ever had. I've never claimed to see a ghost before, and I can't really say I've seen one on account of that I've just told you. But it was the most strangest sensation ever. Like, in the moment, I could see her. And I was like, oh, there's a young lady sat there. But she looks really strange. She looks out of place. But now I cannot really remember what she looks like at all. Even though, you know, like when you do have a dream, you can remember it on a subconscious level, and you can sort of replay a dream in your head a little bit, can't you? But if you try and explain the dream, it's hard, isn't it? Because dreams are so weird sometimes. So to describe a dream is quite difficult. I don't know if I'm really articulating how I feel properly, that it's easy for you to understand, but it was the most, and still is the most strangest feeling, because it's like I saw her, but I didn't.
Something didn't feel right.
Honestly, it's like my brain starts to remember and then goes, nope. It is really strange.
That's a strange thing as well, that what are believed to be ghosts are witnessed in different forms. So sometimes they are the almost transparent, you know, smoke-like entities. Sometimes they just look like a normal human being, perhaps in different clothes or whatever. The one you saw looked like we made out of grey clay.
Yeah, it looked like grey clay.
Almost like a traditional Victorian ghost, you know.
Yeah.
So it's weird that's the case.
It was really, really odd. It was, and again, I think the bit that freaks me out the most is the sensation I've been left with. You know, like whenever I walk past it now, or even if I just pass it in the car, I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it comes back.
That is strange, especially in that you gave yourself an explanation of it might have been the cleaner. And it might have been. But that doesn't explain why you feel that way about it.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Really
I think
strange.
a lot of people like brush off these feelings as well and think
They do.
you don't, because you can't explain it. So you're like, oh, it's just me being stupid, or
Well, I still fall into that feeling of like, oh well, it was maybe just the cleaner. They were just sat there having 2 seconds, just having a bit of a breather.
Went in another room
And then
you didn't see
I
them.
suggest you complain to the landlord that the cleaners are slacking.
Yeah,
If they come back and say we don't have any,
exactly. That's it. I was
You've
just
got
about
your
to say.
answers.
Then that's when they turn around and say, "We don't have a cleaner. We do it ourselves, and we do it on the night. We don't do it in the morning, so we have a bit more time in bed." You know, but yeah, it was really, really strange. And you know, back to the point really is that it's different that my feeling and experience of quote unquote seeing a ghost is different to yours, because you can really clearly remember seeing this figure and what have you. But like for me, I have a completely different experience. It was so bizarre.
I'm sure as the years have gone on though, like I do remember he was like grey in colour, but the picture I've got of him in my head now is probably not the one that I saw when I was 8 or 9. It's probably in my head changed over the years.
Yeah,
but there was definitely a man there.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just your regular memory.
Yeah.
Trying to remember things that are from a long time ago. Anyway, you know, you do just start to. They become memories of memories in a way, don't they? You know, it's like trying to remember that far back. I've probably got like memories that probably aren't even remotely true now because they're that long ago.
when you're talking about a pub, it takes us right nicely into my next
good.
story. What a nice segue.
Yeah, well,
Do you know,
that's
just thinking about it, every pub must have a haunted story.
easily, because everything fucking goes down at the pub, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe if you're going to be a ghost, you're like, I'm going to pick a pub. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, because you know you think some places where people reportedly see ghosts, you think why would people be spending their afterlife here unless you don't control it?
Like, that's the only way
Because I
we
would
get a choice.
exactly choose that. I know exactly where I'd sit as well in the pub.
Pick your haunting location.
I want to be sat next to the fire.
Yep.
Yeah,
Only in winter.
of course. Sat outside in the summer. So yeah, I think. Well, you kind of told me a little bit about this. So
Yeah, so when I was like late teens, early 20s, my boyfriend at the time used to live above Goose and Granite pub in town, which I can't remember. In the olden days, it used to be a hotel, but I can't remember what it was actually called, but it was on George Street and in Hull. So people would remember, if people are from Hull who listen to this podcast. And there was upstairs, it was still a hotel, but there was parts of it that had been like made into apartments. So the landlord of Goose and Granite, he had a apartment, and it was like an L shape. And then he let out another like flat apartment to my boyfriend at the time. And it was massive. It was really weird, because I remember we walked in, the whole place needed decorating. It was really old fashioned, but it was like, oh, I've got like 4 bedrooms in this flat.
Oh, God, wow.
And we was like 19.
all right, what a brag.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So, and it was massive. And I was like, God, why not? Like, we got
Rachel.
it at a good price.
Hey, Rachel, you want to be my girlfriend? I got 4 bedrooms.
4
I'm so fancy.
double bedrooms, if you please.
They were it was a big flat. And I remember it was creepy, but I thought it was just because it was quite old-fashioned, decorated. There was one room in particular, and all I can think of is like, why didn't I just be totally freaked out by this? It was almost like there was a tree growing in it, up the wall.
What the hell?
I know, it was like a big, I can't remember what the plant would have been, but there was literally like some kind of plant that was that big that it looked like a tree coming out the wall, and now every time I see like
What do you mean coming out of the wall? Have you grown it? Or it was
no, this was already there.
intruded on the
flat was
apartment?
so old.
Have we made a mistake bringing Rachel onto the podcast?
It sounds like I know it sounds like I'm just making these like sets up in my head or something. I wish I'd taken. Why weren't phones around then?
If the tree started talking, we're ending the
that's it. We'll put
We're
it in
ending
the
the
It'd have been
episode.
like it was obviously like mold or something that had got out of hand, and it was like it looked like a plant, but it was that big. It was like from the top of the
That's some
to the
vicious
bottom.
mold.
What did you say, mold?
I don't know. I remember it looked like a tree.
Could it have been a plant he's
Could it-
grown
yeah,
and it
just
was
like
out of
a
It
control?
was there before I moved in, so it just ended up like closing the door on that and never going in
Shut
there.
up!
We call this the woodland room.
It was. Oh god, I really wish
Although
I
it
had
may
a
be
picture.
mold.
Woodland/mouldy room. Okay, right. Well, we'll skip over
So
that
he had
detail.
an upstairs and a downstairs in this flat. Oh my god, this is so funny. And upstairs, I remember him saying to me, "There's this little like door, like a wooden door, and I have to go out there to take the bin out. Why don't you come with me? It's really creepy." So I did, and you go out this wooden door, and it was like a long corridor, and it was back into the old hotel of what it used to
That
be.
feels a bit weird, doesn't it?
So it was really creepy
I've got
and like
a really clear image. Of
Yeah, I
this.
have.
it was
Yeah.
it was like old-fashioned 1970s decorated, 80s maybe. I don't know when the hotel closed down. Full of dust, mold probably.
to go with the tree.
And then we walked up this little bit of a corridor, but I can't quite remember it all, but it was like there was a corridor going off one way, then there was the long one ahead, and then there was a door, and he said, "Oh, that door's the landlord's, that's his flat there, but there's a different like entrance way to that." So I was like, all right. And then we walked up to take the bins out, and we had to walk through a really big old-fashioned like function room with a bar in the corner. And it was all empty. There was still chairs around the side. Obviously there was
No wonder he wanted you to go with him.
It was,
In
it
case
was
he got
so
lost.
weird.
Oh, well.
And I was like, at the time, I was like, oh, but there's loads of spiders around it. I thought it was really frightening. And we went back, and I was like, I'm never doing that with you again. It was so weird.
Yeah.
And then these flat had a weird feel to it, but I always just put my weird feelings down to, it's just not the nicest decorated. Like, let's get it decorated. It's
Old
old.
always brings that on. doesn't it?
And then he got a flatmate, and the flatmate said to me one day, "Did you hear a bell ringing last night?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I hear that bell ringing all the time. I think every time a bus passes, it like shakes some kind of like pipes or something that sounds a bit like a bell." She was like, "No, this is definitely a bell." And I was like, "Well, I do hear it like quite a lot when I stay over, but I've not really thought anything of it."
Because you might think like old building, heavy traffic going by, it might be glasses jingling together or something like that.
That's what I thought. It was probably something like that.
Yeah.
Some old buildings have bells above doors, don't they? So people know if they come in, especially like in a pub or somewhere where you have customers.
Yeah.
And she only stayed for about 3 weeks or 4 weeks and moved out.
That's always a good sign.
And I remember saying to my boyfriend at the time, I was like, "This flat is really creepy, and the creepy feeling's not going away, even though you've closed the bedroom door on the tree that's growing in there." The tree to the upside down.
You've closed the door to the Whomping Willow.
Oh my god. And I didn't like being in there on my own. It was just really weird vibes. And then his brother came to stay with us and immediately was like, "What the hell is that bell on a night? Because this is getting weird. It's really loud." And I was like, I said the same. I said, "I think it's every time." It's like, "Rachel, it's not every time a bus goes past. Why do you keep saying this?" And then,
Because I don't want to be scared.
Yeah.
and then he said a few more things, which I can't fully remember what it was now. And I swear I've blocked out these memories. But I used to hear him talking to my boyfriend. I'd be like, what did he say? And he wouldn't tell me because I think it was too scary.
Oh, shit.
And then I did get the feeling I was being watched, but it wasn't as intense as when I was at my nana's house all those years before. But I didn't like being in there on my own. But sometimes, because obviously he worked in the pub downstairs, so sometimes I'd go up to the flat because I'm like not sitting in the pub with him. I want to just be upstairs and watch telly or whatever. And yeah, I'd hear the bells sometimes, but again, I'd rationalise it. And the main thing was the creepiness of it. And then the landlord said, "Oh, well, in my flat, I hear people running up and down the flat all the time when we're in bed. It's definitely haunted."
Oh, for fuck's sake! Why would you be so chill about that?
Well, then,
It don't
this is
bother
what I
some
mean.
people, does it?
And I think, oh, they're just trying to creep me out, you know, like, oh, let's have a laugh and wind Rachel up. Because then it was, years ago.
They've probably gone into more depth at the time, though, if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, then they
and
said
really
to me,
tell you everything.
They said to me,
embellish things.
There used to be a bellboy and he killed himself. And you're like, oh, like, I'm thinking, oh, they're winding me up because they know I'm getting a bit creeped out by this flat. I still don't know if there was or not, and I want to know. But this went on. We didn't stay there very long. I think he lived there from about the September, and then about the February we moved out. And this was like the weirdest part that made us just suddenly move out. Is I was laid in bed one night, and he was downstairs in the pub. He hadn't come in yet, and I was falling asleep, and someone shouted, "Turn around!" And I like sat up, and I was like, "What the hell?" It was like an angry man's voice went, "Turn around!" like that.
Oh my god!
But of course, I was like, "Oh, I must have fallen asleep or something." But I know I didn't. But I told myself, I think I must have dozed off to sleep. Turned the light on, obviously, and just waited for my boyfriend to come home. And then I can't remember if it was the same night or within the same few nights. We were in bed, and I can't remember what happened. But I was like, did you hear that? I don't know if it wasn't a voice. I don't know if it was something had fallen. I can't fully remember what it was. And he was like, yeah. And he put the light on. And then we heard it again. And I went, I don't want to be here anymore. And he's like, let's pack our bags. We literally packed our bags, moved to my mum's. And the only time we went back was to get his stuff. We got another flat. Just round here, actually. Near where you live.
I wonder if...
Damn, that's
for him to react like that. And it's, you know, it's his flat.
And he was not a believer in all this stuff at all.
For him to react like that, of actually fleeing the property,
yeah,
which is exactly what it was.
Yeah, it was about 10 o'clock at night as well. And
for that to happen is, I feel like he must have known, experienced something.
More, definitely, because I didn't live there, so God knows what was happening when I wasn't there. We should ask Mike
to give us the history of the place.
Yes, we'll have a look into that because there's a few things I need to speak to him about actually. But yeah, that'd be one worth looking into because. I think you're right. I think he must have experienced something else, or at least he had enough suspicion to believe that there was something going. You know, there was something more going on. Especially when his brother stayed with us, and I knew that they'd had more conversations, and he was trying to not frighten me by telling me what else there'd been.
And we hear this time and time again with this sort of potentially paranormal activity. When people give it attention, it always gets more and more and more.
Yeah.
We've heard that a lot, haven't we? And,
yeah, definitely.
And sort of experienced it in a way. When we did a ghost hunt evening at the Thorn Workhouse, we were using is it a spirit box that tunes into the radio wave? Yep. So it scans all the radio stations really quickly, and sometimes you'll get bursts of completely legitimate, like, I don't know, football results or whatever. But sometimes it'll just say the odd word, or it might be a bit out of place, or might even be in response to a question somebody's shouted out. And we were doing it in one part of this workhouse, and Kat got quite creeped out, and it was really eerie in there.
We covered this one.
And the spirit box just started off quite gently, nothing much. And by the time that Kat had to leave the place because she was so scared, it felt like something big was going to happen.
It did.
And at one point it shouted bitch.
Oh God, like aggressive.
Yeah. And I think it was almost feeding off the fear of Kat, and which in turn made everyone else. I mean, I really don't scare easily, and I was starting to feel a bit creeped out.
And Claire was like it as well. I mean, we spoke a little bit of that when we was with Liam in our episode with Liam, didn't we? And again, I think we brought it up for the same reason. Is that thing of like where it feeds on energy, whatever it is. So I would say that there's, in that case, for him to react like that, something must have happened before, and it's just been building over time. And then also we've spoken before about when something has a voice. For you to hear that voice, like, turn around, like quite aggressive as well. Oh, that made my blood run cold. That is horrible.
Yeah, it was really freaky. But I definitely think there was more that happened, because for him to be like, let's just pack a bag and go, I was really surprised, because I was like, He's not just been like, oh, go to sleep. Stop being so paranoid.
Are you still on speaking terms?
Oh, I was just going to ask that question.
Is it the guy I
Yeah,
accidentally insulted once?
Yeah. Well, you're not on talking terms then.
No.
No, but he might listen to this podcast.
I still apologise.
He'd know it was him because he'd be like, "Oh, Goose and Granite Pub.
That's my house. I was the one with the woodland room."
Well, since I've driven past like the last few years, they are apartments now. That whole building's been changed, I think, into apartments. So I'd be interested if any of them living there have had anything weird going on. Because I don't think it's a pub anymore. I do think it's just student accommodation, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was that big,
it was massive.
They probably have done so.
Sometimes, again, I'm like, did my memory remember it as being bigger than it was? Because it felt like it was so
maybe
big.
It did in a way, but even still, like, for an apartment to have 2 floors, even that makes it quite big.
2 floors, 4 rooms, and a jungle. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? Yeah, like
a jungle.
But yeah, that's crazy. So, like, I mean, did you ever? Is there anything else that happened there where you kind of feel like to yourself, yeah, that was a bit strange? Or is it really just isolated to those things you've just told us? Is there anything else where you kind of suspect something had happened to yourself, but you've rationalised it?
Yeah, things that you'd rationalise, like the smell of cig smoke, but it was literally above a pub, so couldn't really put that down to anything.
Yeah.
And then it was when I didn't move in, I just used to stay some nights. And I used to be like, oh, it's creepy. And then when he had a housemate who was like, I can't live here. And then his brother who was like, so his brother said that he'd found like an old mattress in one of the rooms and he used to just try and sleep on this old mattress. And he was like, it's the mattress that's haunted.
Might well have been.
Why you slept on an old mattress? I don't know.
Cursed mattress.
He used to be really, his brother was quite freaked out. And I remember he
obviously had a high tolerance for this stuff if he was kipping on a haunted mattress.
Yeah. And then just the feeling of being watched. Like, I hated being in the kitchen. I hated...
Yeah, was there particular rooms that made you feel
I never
uneasy?
ever went upstairs near the jungle room. I feel like whatever it was could have possibly been like in the jungle room. I convinced myself that's where it came from.
Lived in the trees.
Then the kitchen was weird vibes, but then like the bedroom we stayed in and the living room, that didn't feel that creepy to me. All the bathroom, and there was the 3 rooms we'd mainly use. It was the rooms that we didn't use, but maybe we never like going in the kitchen. We'd like
that's
rush.
a weird one, isn't it? Like the kitchen of all places.
Yeah.
Because kitchens, you don't really hit. Usually, when like you see paranormal investigations and things like that, a lot of activity tends to be isolated to sort of more domestic rooms like living rooms, bedrooms and things like that. You don't often see...
And it's only quite a modern thing that people will have the sort of kitchens these days where you can sit in them.
like an open plan.
Because traditionally people would have a kitchen and a dining room and you wouldn't... The kitchen was for, it was a useful room. It was almost a working room. It's not, like you've said, a particularly domestic area of your house, is it?
It was quite a big kitchen as well, so it was like the kitchen at one side and the other side was like a little dining room really. So it was a decent size, but I think he hated going in there as well. We both hated going in there.
Wow.
It was weird vibes.
Well, that's a good excuse to live on takeaways.
Yeah, I think we probably did back then.
What was our excuse back then?
Well, we didn't have one. We didn't need one. We're just young and do what we want. Bloody hell. So
I didn't see anything, but I would like to know if the bellboy story or whatever it used to be in a hotel.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get Mike to look at the history of it.
Especially because, like, people saying that they've heard this bell so often, but you heard it too.
Yeah, I heard it, but I did not really thought of it at all. And when I did hear it, I just thought, oh, it's probably because it's quite a main road. That I just thought, oh, it's probably just the traffic vibrating something in the flat, like.
Oh God.
But then, because I am so scared, I wouldn't like look for anything creepy because I'd be too frightened if I saw something. So I'd block it out almost. Like
it's a bit like you just choosing to
just ignore it.
Just ignore it.
It's the easiest way.
Yeah.
After you moved out, did you ever speak of the place again?
Yeah, we talked about it quite a lot really because it was just freaky. But eventually, you just stop talking about things like that, don't you? Because the night we'd got our I only had a bag of stuff anyway, but he like opened his little suitcase, threw in a load of clothes. We went to my mum and dad's and I remember we were like, we're going to have to go back to that flat to get the rest of your stuff out. He didn't have a lot of stuff.
So such a feeling of dread that even just going back to collect your stuff.
Yeah, and I think my dad came with us, and I should ask my dad really if he remembers, because we rushed so much to just quickly get in and get out as much as we could. And I only went back once to help him like pack a load of stuff. He must have gone back in there more than once because he needed to pack the rest of his clothes and stuff. But luckily the person who was like the landlord of that flat was his boss from the pub, so he didn't really care.
Yeah.
It was already not in the best of states when he moved in, so it wasn't like we had to do a deep clean or like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we moved out really quick.
So like that night, that whatever it was that happened then, like so what did you think it was? You think it was like a bang or a sound or something like that woke you up? Or,
yeah, I can't remember. We'd not even fallen asleep properly. We'd been watching TV, probably a video back then, because it was like,
good old videos.
I mean, DVD players were around, but I literally think I had a TV with a VHS attached to it.
Built-in VHS, nice.
Your very own 12-inch screen.
And I can't remember what happened. The turnaround night was literally within, it might have been the day before, I don't know.
Ooh.
And then I can't remember what happened that night. It might have been a bang or something, but it was enough for, I remember I was surprised that he was like, yeah, let's pack our stuff and go. Because I was like, oh yeah, all right. Because I've been freaked out for ages, which makes me think there's been more happen than what I knew. For him to be like, I'm never going back to that flat again and literally move out. So there's definitely more happen there.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible. No, thank you. So so then after that, did anything happen to you after that, or has it only just been recently when you've started exploring?
Not that I can remember, but recently I've had a few weird things happen, which is what brought me to today's podcast. Because I was like, Brett, these things have been happening, and
well, that's how all this started, wasn't it? Yeah, was us talking about this stuff that's been happening to you, and it was just like, well, what about anything else? And then
and they're the other two stories I can remember. I mean, I'm sure there's other stories that have happened in my life, but nothing that's like sticking out in my mind. Just those two stories. And then recently, so it started like literally just before Christmas, and we're only in February now. And I was watching TV and I saw what looked like, do you know when you look through gas and it looks really hazy? It looked like that, and it was in a ball, but not perfectly circular, like a ball, ovally, like thing moving across my living room. So it moved from, say, like my living room door past my TV, which is when I'd seen it, and I was like, what is that? And I thought it was my eyes, because I was like, am I getting like a migraine or something? You know, it looked like, is it a floater? And then it moved like right across my living room really slowly. It wasn't in a straight line. It was kind of like bobbing down a little bit, and then it'd go back up a little bit. And I watched it move across the living room towards my kitchen. And I honestly didn't freak out or anything, because I was like, until I saw my dog watching it as well. And I was like, oh my God, he can see it too. He was not growling and wasn't freaking out. And I was like, what is it? And then it just disappeared. I didn't think anything of it. And then I've told my dad, and my dad's really into like parallel universes. And he was like, maybe it was like some kind of like portal, like you were seeing through. And I was like, it was weird. It wasn't frightening. It didn't give me any frightening kind of energy, but it was weird. Didn't think anything of it. And then for a few weeks, and I can't remember, this would have been just before Christmas, I'd be going to bed on a night. This is what I was telling you guys.
God, yeah.
And I'd turn my light off, get in bed, and I'd wake up the next day, my light was on. And I was like, I must have fallen asleep with my light on last night. And this went on for probably over a week. And I was like, I need to stop falling asleep with my light on.
I must remember to turn that off.
I was making a conscious effort to turn my light off. And then I'd wake up the next day and my light was on. And I was like, maybe I'm turning it on myself in the night. But I don't remember I'm doing it.
Maybe like sort of half waking up.
Yeah, and reaching over and turning my light on, which I've never done before, but maybe I'm doing that. And then it wouldn't happen for, say, 2 nights, but then it'd happen again, like quite frequently, to the point that it only happened the night before last. It happened again. And anyways, I didn't think much of it. I thought, it must be me. I must be like getting up in the night, going and turning it on. And then I got up one morning, this was only a few weeks ago, It was like 6 o'clock. I just like literally pulled my covers off me and I heard a massive bang. And I thought, oh God, it must be my dog downstairs. But my dog's in a crate and he's silent when he's in there on a night. So I went running downstairs. He was still asleep. Checked but I thought, it sounded like it came from upstairs. So I went upstairs and I've got this like in my main bathroom. I'd not been in there since the previous night. I've got like a gift set of shampoo and conditioners in like a cardboard packaging, so they're not stood up, easily able to fall over. And they're on my bath. I've got one of those bath like wooden things over my bath, what you rest things on, like a mirror.
Shelf.
Yeah, like a bath it's not called that, they've got a different name on there. A bath shelf.
We'll call it a bath shelf.
So you can have it while you're in the bath.
Yeah.
A bath caddy.
A bath caddy. No,
Caddy.
I don't feel like it's called that either.
Oh,
Like a wooden thing that goes
Yeah,
across
yeah,
it. Right.
yeah.
So it's not
Space for a wine glass. Oh,
it's
yeah.
not something that could
Well,
fall off. Anyway, this
Does it rest on the bath or is it on the wall?
it's on the bath, across the
Yeah,
bath.
Oh, it must be a caddy then.
It is
Yeah.
a caddy.
Yeah. I'd like to call it a tray.
Anyway, this gift set upside down on the floor in the bathroom, and I'm like, there's no way that could have fallen.
No.
Like, even if I'd have knocked it the previous night, why did it wait until I'd got up 12 hours later to fall? No heating on at this time.
Yeah, I always think that when stuff like that happens.
Because I was like, this in the pipes creaking. I mean, why would the pipes be creaking? Because I get up and physically turn my heating on. Because some mornings I don't want it on.
Yeah.
So
it's worth saying you live in a new house, don't you?
Yeah,
So
it's a new build.
It's not. Ain't got the same settling sounds that older houses have.
And it was at that point when I thought about the light coming on, and then this thing happened that I'd messaged you, and I was like, oh, I've got a few little creepy things. Then I remembered the hazy thing across the TV. And even since I've been talking about it, I've seen like a shadow where that haze was. I could see a shadow going in the same like direction, and I thought, oh, was that a bit of mascara on my eye, or is there a moth in my lamp? You know, that's gone, because it was that kind of a thing. And that's happened about 3 times. And then on, I think it was like Friday night, just like last week, in the same area where I've seen all these things, I saw a shimmer of light. Like, it was really brief. And the thing is, though, these things that are happening aren't freaky. I don't feel like I'm being watched. I don't feel frightened like I did at my nana's house or in the Goose and Granite pub. This is a different vibe.
Yeah.
But I've said out loud, of like, if anybody's there or if there's anything watching me, stop it, because I'm frightened and I don't like it. And it's got less, but it is still happening, which freaks me out a bit. Like the light the other morning, I thought we'd passed this.
Yeah.
So, but my dog's not getting frightened. He's not growling at anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's something though, because normally they're like very well. They say anyway that they're very sort of like receptive to those sorts of things. I mean, from a scientific sort of perspective, you know, I mean, I've got a cat, as you know, and sometimes I catch her staring into space. But the thing is, not only do they see things that we can't see, but I'm not talking about ghosts. I mean, they see like UV light. They see things on a almost near microscopic level. They see a whole world we'll never be able to sort of, you know, perceive.
Yeah.
So sometimes you know they can be seeing things that we just will never ever be able to see, and that's probably what they're watching. You know, but I think at the same time though, like when you do see them like looking at things, you're just like, why would you be looking over there when
when they're sat staring at something?
I mean, when you saw that with this sort of like strange hazy thing, you know, like you said, like looking through like a like heat from gas, but then your dog was watching that.
Yeah, he was watching it, exactly watching it, because I thought, oh my God, his head was moving as that was moving.
So that's not like he's just seeing something that we can't, because they perceive the world differently to what we do. He's actually seeing the same thing you are, and that's really weird. You know, that he is obviously seeing that too,
and it just confirms that there's something there.
Yeah,
and it's not your eyes or
exactly. It confirms that you was definitely seeing it because he was looking at it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is really weird. So when you said like the light, do you mean the bedroom light?
So it's the bedroom light, but it is a lamp. But the on switch to the lamp isn't like, I can't just reach over and touch it. Like I'd have to sit up in my bed, reach over my chest of drawers because it's like the other side of my chest of drawers.
So the cord is
the cord's the other side
yeah.
of the chest of drawers,
Okay.
basically. Because it wasn't at first, and then I moved it that way because I thought if it's me turning it on,
You want to
won't.
stop yourself
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
But it's still coming on. It's
Mm.
and I thought, like, I don't know how I'm ever going to know if it's me or not.
Ouija board.
No way, I'm not doing that.
Why don't you?
That's everyone's response, and I
Why
love
don't you
it.
move the lamp to a completely different place?
Because then I'll be really
Well away from
frightened.
your bed, see if it
I'd
comes
rather
on.
just kind of have that little thing that maybe it's me.
Might be a faulty lamp.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think like if you plugged it in just on the floor near the door to your bedroom or something like that, and you woke up in the night and it was on, I
Yeah.
think that would scare me more because at least you've got that almost like an excuse for
Yeah, 'cause
like it. Because
I live on
it's
my
just
own.
like, well, it must have been me again, even though I know it wasn't.
That's
You know,
especially because the other night, when I turned the light off, it was really dark on Tuesday night, and I was like, God, it's really pitch black in my bedroom tonight. So then when I woke up with it on, I was like, oh God, like I'm sure. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe I didn't think that last night. Maybe I thought that on Monday night, and I'm just getting my nights mixed up. I have to think of a way to justify it because otherwise I'll be too frightened.
yeah, yeah.
But it is a good thing though that you, in general, although you found this stuff a bit scary, it's not giving you a particularly negative
No, not at all.
feeling. And well, it's a fact, not I think, but it's a fact that our brains are really good at perceiving threat and danger.
And this isn't.
So what you would like consider your subconscious, you know, that would be triggered if there's something dangerous. So I think it's always important to keep that in mind, that if things are happening but you're not feeling particularly negative about it, then, you know, best as you can, try not to be scared, because
because when it's happening,
if it's something supernatural, it's probably somebody or something looking out for you.
Yeah. When it's happening, I'm not frightened. It's after, like, when I've seen a shadow, I'm sat watching the shadow, like, what the hell is that? And then I'm like, oh God, that was freaky. And then I'm like, oh my God, that was so scary. Like when I look back over what's just happened, I get frightened. But when it's actually happening, I'm not scared. And the other night when I saw that shimmer of light, which looked a bit like glitter almost in the corner of my room, and it was really fast, like 2 seconds.
Right. And that just came and went.
Yeah,
like,
just came and went. And weirdly, exactly the same location as where the haze of like, because the shadow is a bit further across the room, whereas that haze moved and then the glitter started where the haze was. It's exactly the same position. It's weird, because then I'm like, is it to do with the light? But if it was, then why is it not happening every night?
Yeah.
Why is it every now and then?
And I can't think of any effect that would cause like the...
Are your blinds and curtains always closed?
Yeah. When it happens, the blinds are closed, yeah.
So it's not like coming from a car's lights outside or anything weird like that.
Yeah.
You know, bouncing off something.
There's no traffic outside.
No, and if there is, I know what that looks like. Do you know, like it comes. If there's ever a shadow through my blinds, which there isn't really, it's a bit higher up. Do you know, and it's on the wall.
And I can't think of any lighting effect that would cause that.
The shadow thing,
like a shimmering type thing.
The shimmering, all that, the sort of haziness.
The shimmering.
I can't think of anything of the hazy thing.
And the haziness.
And to move like that, like when it's a light, it's quite uniform in how it moves, isn't it? You know, so if it's a reflection of a car lights from outside going past, it'll always go along the same trajectory along your wall.
Yeah,
and it's usually quite
that's what I
like
know
predictable.
When it's that,
but this thing seemed almost fluid and the way it was moving.
And it's not somewhere, even if somebody was, say, turning around doing a 3-point turn outside of my house, which they have done before, it's a different light. It's not the same. It don't go in that direction.
I mean, the thing is, something like that happens that regularly after a while that you don't even pay it any mind, do you? You know, you see the lights coming through the curtains or the blinds or whatever, and you know what it is. You don't even think about it. You're just like, oh, there's a car turning around outside or whatever, and you just don't even think about it. But the fact that your attention was drawn to it, that you didn't know what it was, means that it clearly wasn't just something as mundane or pedestrian as a car turning in the road outside.
And the shimmer was really fast. Like, I'd probably disregard that. But the, like, haze that I saw, that went on for, like, well, not for a minute or anything like that, but long enough for me to watch it and be like, what is that? Like, what is that moving in my living room? And it was quite slow. And then the dog was sat right next to me, and I saw him watching it, and I was thinking, oh, he can see it as well. And it didn't disappear at that moment. It carried on as if it was like moving towards across my living room, past my TV, like down nearer the floor, then up a bit more, like right up until near my kitchen. And then as soon as it got near my kitchen, I couldn't see it anymore. So
that is really weird. And I think if you didn't have the dog, you probably would have just said, well, yeah, it was probably just
a floater
or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, tired, I've got like a bit of a floater in my eye. And it would have been very easy to do that, I think. And if you didn't tell me that part of the story that Louis could see it, I think I probably would have said that was most likely the case.
I probably wouldn't even have brought it up because I thought, oh, it's just me.
Yeah. Because I'm tired, I've got floaters in my eye.
The same with the shadow as well. Like, I wouldn't have thought anything of it but it's all these little things together. I'm like, this is weird. There's too many like little things happening at the minute that don't all make sense. Like, because the first time I saw the shadow, I thought it was a moth near my lamp, but there wasn't. And then I was like, I saw it again, and then I thought it was just some mascara on my eye, and that had like maybe fallen in my eye. But then I was like, but this is happening more than just a couple of times. This is like a regular thing. The shadow's really quick as well. So like the shimmer was quick. The shadow's probably like 2-3 seconds. But yeah, the haze was definitely, it wasn't a minute, but it was like 40 seconds, 45 seconds. It was quite a while.
And I think, you know, we'll come back to the other thing really, which is really quite like, whoa. But the bang in your bathroom then.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is
no
like, so that. What the fuck happened there? So this thing, let's just articulate this better for listeners, etc., and for the purpose of this story and trying to explain what happened. So this thing is like a tray which sits over the bath.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a caddy. That is what it's called. But I'm just trying to for the purposes of
determined to call it a tray, aren't you?
It just suits it better. All right,
tray.
A caddy. It sounds like something to do with golf. Right. So listen. So it's like. It's a bit like when you get one of those breakfast trays, isn't it? When you put it for when you're in bed, but it's something.
Breakfast caddy.
So, this breakfast caddy is sort of the thing we're talking about, but it's for your bath, and it hooks over the bath. So when you're sat there in the bath, you can have it in front of you, and you can just reach over and you can get your sponge out and you can wash your face and then you put it back in. So this thing is literally sitting over the bath.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe these are the kind of things we need to put on the social media so our listeners know.
Take a picture of
what I'm talking
about.
Take
a picture of your caddy.
Ours it's like expandable.
Oh, no, mine's fully
so
wooden.
It rests
extendable.
On. Yeah, it's extendable.
Mine's
quite
just
right.
Wood, so it doesn't.
No, it's all wood, but it's got like little hinges. So if you had a wider bath.
Oh no, I don't have that. But
it's always like showing off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, what a brag! I've got an extendable wooden bath caddy.
Also, it's got like it's got like a little ledge around it, so things can't just fall off. Do you know, like it's got. I mean, the part where the shampoos were, the ledge is only really like thin, like not even a centimetre long. But and somebody said to me, shampoos like they'll be expanding or like popping. What? But I'm like, do you know like the bottles, like when they click and move?
Oh, well, yeah,
but these are minis because they're in a gift set, so they're like tiny and they're laid down in a gift set.
Is the shampoo?
I was going to say, what are you packing?
I need to take a photo of this because I've still got the shampoos to show.
Rachel uses Coca-Cola and Mentos as shampoo.
Good Lord, are you sure you want it on your hair? You got like so this thing sits over your bath. It's got these explosive bottles in it, right? And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, can't even blame the dog. It's not
it's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not even the middle of the night when this happens.
But Louis is in his
crate downstairs in the living room.
Why did I nearly called it a cot?
He's my baby.
Well, it's kind of accurate. So he's in his crate downstairs. It's not like he's going mental trying to get your attention and he's jumped in the bath or anything.
No, because he's closed in the crate as well, so he can't get out.
Yeah, so he's a prisoner. And And all of a sudden, you just hear this. Are you up or are you still in bed?
I just woke up, so I'd not even got out of bed yet. I was like literally just
waking
throwing
up.
my covers off, ready to go, because I've got an ensuite, which is the room I would be going in the morning.
I'm sick of you two bragging all night, Jesus.
I don't use that. I use that for a bath, and I had a bath the night before, but I would have noticed if I'd have knocked the gift set off. And plus, why my bath the night before would have been at like 6 o'clock. So this is 12 hours later.
Yeah.
So why did it just decide to fall then? But then obviously, because I don't want to be frightened, I'm like, just decided to fall. There's no reason for it.
Well, that's
at
what
all.
you do. I mean, some of the things that happened to us.
And this person's explanation about the shampoo bottles, they expanded so much that it knocked the bath caddy off.
No, the caddy was still there. It was just the shampoo, conditioner,
All right, so they jumped
body
off.
wash, and a soap in this. It's tiny.
So in this
They
box.
took the soap with it.
Yeah.
I need to show a picture of it because I don't think people understand what it's like laid down as well in this little gift set. You know, like it's not big or anything like that.
When this episode's gone out, we'll give it a couple of days so people can have listened to it, and then we'll post a picture of you.
I think I post the picture.
Hey ladies,
if
have
you
a look at my caddy.
If you want to know what it's about, you need to listen to the podcast.
yeah. Talk about clickbait. Have a look at this caddy. Listen to the episode if you want to know what this is about.
It's good advertising, just a random bath caddy.
Maybe I'll take a photo while I'm in the bath.
Can you imagine if this just starts something ridiculous and people start posting pictures of their bath caddies in our group? It's just
if there are any bath caddy companies out there who would like some free advertising,
indeed.
I'm sure it's got a nicer name.
Beyond the Veil bath
caddy's
caddies.
Not very nice, is it?
It makes me think of a plastic caddy.
It just makes me a plastic caddy. Well, isn't that what they call your food bin? Isn't that called a caddy?
Oh, I don't.
Oh, what, the little brown plague
Those
bins?
little brown or green, like I was downstairs. We were just talking about before we
For
came
food
up.
waste.
Yeah, they call that a
plague
caddy.
bins, I call them.
Yeah, they are. They are plague bins, but they call that a caddy. I'm sorry, it's a bath tray. It's far more pleasant.
I don't even like that. No,
that's not
I'm going to
very
find
pleasant.
out the name of it because I don't think I think it's got a nice name.
You wish it's got a nice name.
I'm going to call it my bath shelf, but it's
Bath
not.
shelf.
That's not even a
No,
nice.
it's not a shell.
It's not a
I
shell.
have heard them called bath boards before as well.
It's not even that good.
No, I don't like it. I like bath caddy.
It just sounds like it's something to do with golf. I'm sorry. We're definitely focusing on the wrong thing.
We
I
are.
hope whatever it is just stops there. But I don't like. It's a new build, but like you said, that area where I live, like you're not sure if it might be.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, we're not going
Haunted.
to name it, but there is some sort of urban legend type thing to that area, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Yeah. So there is like, we still don't really know why it is named what it is. Really, there's numerous theories, but
Oh, I don't think I want to know him because I just want to bought my house there.
It's off the main road.
If I'd known it was on cursed land.
Is that what you're going to tell me next? It was a graveyard for Vikings.
Yeah.
there was a great battle there. And hundreds died.
Every 80s horror movie, a Native American burial
Native
ground.
American, yeah. I'm actually just going to check to make sure Charlotte's just walked past that door. Charlotte, are you there? Oh, very good. I just saw the silhouette of movement, and I'm just making sure you're
Native American.
Yeah, it's a Native American. So, yeah. So, it maybe it's just something to do with the land. I don't know, but because that could be a load of nonsense anyway. Because there is no confirmed.
Yeah.
As far as I've tried to understand about that area, why is it called what it's called? There is nothing confirmed at all. So that could just
It's always been the stuff of urban legend.
Yeah,
really.
100%.
I'm just going to keep telling myself that I'm turning my own light on in the night. The shampoos fell because they're just one of those things.
Because they're made from C4 and
Yeah. And the shadows and stuff, it's just my eyes. Because otherwise I'll be too scared.
You're too scared to go home tonight. I mean, it's fascinating though. But I think the fact that you asked it to pack it in a little bit,
not frighten me,
because you're scared, and it did lessen. You've told me before that you sometimes go around and sage your house. Have you done that recently?
No, I've not actually for ages. Maybe I need to. Maybe I'll spring sage my house.
Yeah, I would.
I do have some saging actually.
Because that we've talked before about like that cleansing energies and things like that, and you do that from time to time. Maybe it's just time to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe just say, I'm not doing this to hurt you. This is just to purge negative energies.
Yeah.
And whatever's here. Just don't frighten me.
Yeah, because
I live alone. I've got a dog. I want a simple life.
It's definitely. I mean, you don't definitely know it, but it's not negative. I don't feel negative.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah,
that's always a good thing.
Well, again, we're looking at it. Your dad might be onto something. Maybe this is nothing to do with ghosts or someone giving you a signal. It might just be a different type of energy, whether that's from a parallel universe or whatever it is.
Interesting.
And in which case, I presume things like saging or asking it to stop, because asking it to stop is a well-known technique for sort of ghosts, isn't it? Because then if it's one that's not wanting to scare you, it'll probably will stop.
We've talked about this in previous episodes. Like George's story, he told to pack it in, and he did. And then some of the other accounts we've had where we've like said, stopped. Sometimes they don't want to scare you. It's more of their attempt to give you a sign that they're there or whatever. But I think what you was leading to there is that saging or asking it to stop, if it is to do with parallel universes or anything like that, maybe these things might not help. It'll just stop whenever it stops.
And I do think that I've got like quite good intuition. Like people have said to me before, like, I bet I could be psychic if I wanted to be, but oh my god, never. I'd be way too far, and I'd block anything like that with my brain.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So I'll ask you sort of like a direct question then. So what do you think it is? If you had to like really, okay, well, I think it's this. Not saying what you hope it is, so that you can sleep at night. If you what do you think?
I think if it's hoping, it's not like hoping that it is just something that my eyes are doing. But if it's not, I'd hope it was like some good spirit or something, like my nana, maybe my other nana was not 95, the one who died, or something just tell me, it's okay, things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Or because I mean, the amount of times you have bad things happening in your life, like, and you think, I just want a sign that everything's going to be okay, and then how do I know that that's not a sign? Somebody's saying to me from the beyond, like,
maybe
you're
just
okay.
A bit,
here's a little sign. Here's a little shimmer to let you know I'm listening.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to think it was, if anything.
Just a bit of comfort.
If that is real, and if it is something like that, but then who knows, right? I just don't know.
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
I wish it didn't make the bang in the bathroom though, because that was quite frightening.
Yeah, I mean, when it becomes something quite physical like that, because we've obviously spoken before, just when we've been together and stuff, like some of the stuff that happened to us in the other house, and when you hear big bangs like that, and again, that's always the question as well. I mean, I will talk in depth about these things because we're going to get Charlotte on here, because then we can talk together about some of the things that happened in that previous house, and I have touched on them in episodes already anyhow. But when some of the things have happened, and when it does happen, so like bangs and things falling over, you're like, why did that happen now in the middle of the night though? Why didn't it just happen when the house was more busy? Like when there's more movement, because you could turn around and say, oh, okay, yeah, well, there's been movement and it's knocked something loose or it's shaken something that it would fall over. You could explain that a little better. But when the house is completely still and everyone's in bed and it's like 3 in the fucking morning, it's like, why did that happen now?
I thought this because I'm in a new build, so the house is still settling, and even though I've been in it 5 years now, but it is still settling. But it wasn't on the wall. It wasn't on like a shelf that was on the wall. It wasn't near any radiators or pipes or anything like that. It was just over my bath. Like, it's not an area that'd move naturally.
And I'd say, actually, to be fair, like a new build house after 5 years and being lived in, I would say it's probably settled.
Yeah.
I mean, like all the changes in temperature and everything, you're not near any massive roads where you've got a lot of traffic or anything like that. You're quite far off from a main road. So I would say any settling that your house wanted to do, it's
Yeah,
probably
well, I've had
done
no
it.
more cracks coming in my walls, so I'm guessing itself. But
Yeah.
And the fact I didn't have any heating on, because I think that can change your house and make things move. Like my heating went off probably like 9:30, and then I don't have it come on in a morning until I've got up and gone downstairs. So it wasn't on yet. So it's not like the temperature was changing from that. I mean, and it's not exactly the time of year where it's hot outside, or it wasn't a stormy night, because we've had a few of those recently.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in my bathroom. It's not somewhere that a storm would affect anyway. Do you know? Like,
No, that's. I mean,
it's quite hard to find a rational explanation for it.
Yeah,
really.
I think this is what we've said this before. This is where it gets to the point where trying to find a rational explanation sounds more ridiculous than the idea that it's paranormal.
Yeah, because I don't have any mice or anything like that in my house either.
Yeah, that's it. Exploding shampoo bottles. It just sounds absolutely fucking ridiculous. Or, like you just said there, like stormy weather and things like, well, what? Did a fucking gale force wind sweep through the house?
At that moment.
Blew your covers off your bed? Like, that wasn't you, that was the fucking wind. And then it knocked all the shit off your bath caddy tray board thing. So it's just...
Yeah, but for that to have happened, it didn't do anything else. It didn't blow the covers off. It just specifically targeted
that one
the bath
thing.
caddy.
I know, because I thought, well, if I'd have been in London, when I used to live in London, I'd be like, oh my God, I've got a rat or a mouse in my flat.
Yeah.
But I don't have mice, mice or mats.
Yeah,
We've got some
That's the
mats.
collective name for a mouse and a rat.
Well, yeah, and also, I think if you had
It wouldn't just be that had fallen.
I said rice then. I said rice.
Mats and rice.
Mice and rats. If you had
Mats and rice, for Christ's sake.
Right, so if you had mats and rice, your dog would have noticed by now.
Oh yeah, he would have got them, but yeah, I definitely don't.
If you had mats and rice, your God would have noticed by now.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. I mean, he would hear them and things like that. So if he was behaving strangely, then it's probably because he'd be tracking down your mats and rice. But yeah, I think that instantly sort of dismisses that as well.
Yeah.
Because if you did have...
I would know about it as well. I'd know if I had.
Yeah, there's other signs, isn't there?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just knocking your bath caddy over that would, they'd just target that. You'd have much clearer signs. And we've had mice before when we was at the other house, and that became very apparent very quickly, So yeah, I genuinely can't think of any reason really that something like that would happen. I mean, obviously, if you show us a picture of it, I don't think it's going to help me find a logical explanation for it, but it'd be good to see it just so I can maybe try and factor in maybe some other things.
I can't remember how was actually. You're making me forget what my logical reason was for this. Though it just happened. It just happened to fall.
Just fancied
Just
fall.
one of them things. That's all I'm gonna have to tell myself.
That'll do.
Well, I think you just... I'll have to go back through our messages, but I think you just said that maybe like it had been sat funny or whatever from the night before and decided to fall, but it decided to fall like 12 hours later or whatever it was. But yeah, like
I would have noticed if I'd have knocked it that much. Like if it was hanging on the edge of this bath shelf.
Don't call it a shelf. You'll upset Lee. Yeah, I ain't got anything for that one really, and I ain't got anything for any of them, to be honest with you. I ain't got anything for your hazy, gassy,
that hazy thing. It just reminded me. I read on some Facebook group, paranormal thing. Somebody was on a beach in Mexico, I think. There was just them and their family. It was quite a deserted, nice beach, and they stood and watched for ages to the point where they didn't get a chance to take a picture of it because they were so mesmerised. So a lot of criticism was, why don't you take a picture of it? But they stood and watched something that sounds like that just moving across the sea on the horizon. And a few other people came forward to say they've seen very similar things, and they almost considered it like a UFO encounter. And somebody had suggested, I mean, it certainly doesn't explain it being in your house. Someone suspected that it was some type of ball lightning that can apparently act in that way and look like that. But it just reminded me of that, which
ball
is weird.
lightning, did you say?
Ball lightning.
I'm going to have a look at that.
Yeah,
Hold on.
I have no idea what
it's a really strange thing, ball lightning, and it's even been used to account for when people think they've been chased by UFOs, because ball lightning can apparently seem to almost follow you sometimes.
Interesting. Okay, right. Ball lightning. Bearing in mind, I am reading this from Wikipedia, but bearing in mind. So, ball lightning is a rare and unexplained phenomenon described as luminescent spherical objects that vary from pea-sized to several meters in diameter.
Ooh.
Though usually associated with thunderstorms, the observed phenomenon is reported to last considerably longer than the split-second flash of lightning bolt, and is distinct from St. Elmo's Fire, not the song or the film, and Will-o'-the-Wisp.
Oh my God, so why was it in my living room?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so
Well, that does sound like a lot like
ball
what I
lightning
thought.
outdoors is reasonable, but yeah, it did remind me of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, saying that though, I mean, like we're saying, well, why was it in the house? But there is an old picture here, almost illustrating the phenomenon, and it is of 4 rather dapper-looking gentlemen observing the phenomenon indoors.
Ah,
I know that's not a proper picture, but it didn't look like that. That's too prominent.
It's too spherical.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
I
it's
think that
obviously
might be to do with the drawing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a drawing, isn't it? But some 19th century reports describe balls that eventually explode and leave behind an odour of sulphur. Descriptions of ball lightning appear in a variety of accounts over the centuries and have received attention from scientists. An optical spectrum of what appears to have been a ball lightning event was published in January 2014 and included a video at high frame rate. Nevertheless, scientific data on ball lightning remains scarce, although laboratory experiments have produced effects that are very similar to reports of ball lightning. How these relate to the phenomenon remains unclear.
And I wouldn't have known if there was a sulphur smell, because if there was, I'd have just thought my dog had farted. I don't recall that, but it could have happened.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the dogs do that.
Are there any photographs online of
Let's have a
lightning?
Let's have a look.
People have also described like plasma balls as well. Which
Yeah,
I don't know if there could be in your
that sounds
house
more
or-
like what it'd look like. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, presumably, that the phenomenon is that rare. There isn't really any images. I mean, the closest thing I've found by looking through these images, which sounds at least somewhat close to what you've explained, although it does have like an electrical field with it, is that.
No, it didn't look
But
like
it just
that.
didn't look like
either.
that. You described it, and I know exactly how you're describing
Yeah.
it. Is that it looked, shimmering as if like the air's,
Yeah.
shaking or trembling or whatever. Just like you do when you look at
through
the heat
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
created from gas or
that's
even
exactly
just
what I
flame
thought of,
anywhere.
like,
Yeah,
through gas.
yeah. But there's no images for it, probably because of the fact that the phenomenon is so rare.
It's interesting though that illustration is indoors, because
Yeah,
although your description reminded me of
Yeah.
accounts of ball lightning that I've heard before, I didn't ever expect that they would be indoors.
yeah. I mean, like it seems like all illustrations of it, from clearly from like the 19th century, I would guess, do appear to be indoors. I mean, there's another one there. I mean, these are just illustrations though, so they have no real scientific like footing really. It's just people drawing the fucking thing, but they're always indoors, which is just bizarre.
Oh, it's bizarre.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, like I could never take, if I tried to take a photo of it, definitely you won't be able to see it on camera.
No, true, and that's probably why like all of these ones do just appear to be.
That's really interesting that it can be indoors.
It's weird that because they didn't have cameras or they were very sort of primitive or whatever, so the easiest way to describe what they were seeing was to draw them. But the fact that they were always drawn indoors,
Yeah.
very, very
Well, that is
interesting.
cool.
So yeah, maybe it was ball lightning.
There we are.
Who knows?
Interesting.
Maybe that'll help you sleep at night. Just say it was ball lightning.
Ball lightning explains everything.
No, it was nothing. Just a scientific phenomenon. That's all it was. Nothing to worry about. So, Well, I'm afraid we've not got much else to shine light on for you, Rachel. I think everything else is quite... Well, we need to see your bath caddy now.
Yeah.
Maybe a ball lightning swept through.
It is possible. It is possible.
Knocked it off. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I hope it never happens again.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Well, the fact that you said that about the light, I think that's the next one, isn't it? He's trying to understand that now. Is like how is the light turning on?
Yeah.
The fact that you've took steps to stop that happening as well.
Yeah. Still, and it's not happened for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the night before last it happened.
It's also it's a set of different things that you've experienced.
Yeah, because
not like it's just the same thing keeps happening. So you could start to find a reason or think of it's something that I'm just missing, and it's causing it. It's happening all the time.
And nothing happened until just a few months. It's just been the last few months.
Yeah, I think that's the sudden start of it is odd. The fact that it's just begun.
Yeah.
Would you say that, like we said earlier, that it has intensified as you've focused on it more?
No, because then up until my light coming on the other... Oh, no, I don't know, actually, because I was going to say up until my light coming on the other day, I don't think I'd seen anything for a few weeks, but I saw the shimmer, and that was only last week. I think it was like Friday night or something. So, it's not intensified. I'd say it's just stayed the same.
Right. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you'll have to see how it goes, though. But yeah, I would maybe sage your house.
I do think as well, though, it's the more negative ones are the ones that seem to escalate and intensify. With your feeling that this isn't something negative, I think that might be why it hasn't escalated any. Because it does seem to be those, whatever they are, not very nice spirits or whatever it is. It seems to be those that are quite intense, don't it?
Yeah, and they seem to feed on the negative energy more, don't they? So the fact that if you were scared or nervous or worried, they'd feed off that. But the fact that you don't have that feeling in the first place makes me think that it probably wouldn't be feeding off those kinds of energies, because you're only scared of it because it's unexplained.
Yeah.
You're not scared because it's scaring you per se.
And I'm at the point where, like, if I got home tonight and I was watching TV and I saw a shadow, I'd be like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, no, just leave me alone. Don't frighten me. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's not frightening. It's only when I talk about it afterwards it's frightening.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that's telling, because, again, you've not got that sort of visceral fear at the time. Does mean that it doesn't seem to be negative.
No.
It's not like you've got that dread to be at home.
No.
I mean, it's not like you're dreading going home in case something happens. Or
I kind of am a little bit now.
Maybe now we've been speaking about it. Yeah.
I shouldn't have come on this podcast. But I mean, I remember some of the things that happened to us. I was dreading, like, going home. I was just like, fucking hell, like, what the fuck has happened? That's how where we got to.
I feel more creeped out in retrospect about your old house. Especially that photograph that we discussed before. That makes me feel really uneasy.
Yeah. Did I tell you about that, Rachel?
No.
We mentioned it in our last episode, and I'll get Charlotte. We have to remember to get Charlotte to find it on a phone before you go, and you can have a look at it. But there's just this picture of one of our Halloween parties that we used to have, and there's just this guy stood in the middle of the room, and we don't know who he is, and he's the only one who's not in focus.
Oh my god.
And he's not in costume. He's literally just there looking at the camera.
Not smiling.
Oh my god, that frightens
me. It
frightens me.
It is weird.
Why am I on podcast?
yeah. It is weird. It's a weird photo. I'll get Charlotte to show you it before you go, if you want to see it, of course.
Another one you should be putting on the social media, so everyone can see it.
I think we should, after the episode we do about your old house, we should.
Yeah, we will, because we've got quite a lot to cover in it. I'm looking forward to that episode, actually, because we bring it up quite often, some of the stuff we've experienced, but because I actually think that was probably the place where I've experienced the most activity, though. Like, things have happened over time. I mean, that flat I had in town was particularly bad.
And that was one that escalated. That
that escalated quick.
I started to feel uneasy in that flat, and I certainly didn't live there,
Yeah.
I slept over a couple of times in there, but it was around the time when you'd started filming things and your mum got a bit freaked out.
My mum was just like...
And then the story of the neighbour that we spoke about, it started to feel unpleasant in there.
Yeah.
And that, to me anyway, you were the one that lived there, but to me that started to feel negative.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah. My mum was just like, don't want to know anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's when I knocked it on the head. And it's sort of like... And again, once I stopped focusing on it, that's when it dissipated. But that house now, in retrospect, you're right. Like, when I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, a lot actually happened there. And some really weird stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to having Charlotte on to talk about that.
I'm just remembering as well when I was saying, when I was 8 or 9, I didn't know any ghost stories or anything. But I always remember when I was in year 6 and all the girls used to talk about Blue Lady in the girls' toilets at school.
Right.
I don't know if boys know this, but this is a countrywide thing. Like, some people called her the White Lady. Yeah. And girls used to always say that the girls' toilets were always haunted by either the Blue Lady or the White Lady, depending on where in the country you lived.
Okay.
Like that, I think that was probably my first thing of ghost stories.
See, school toilets are a liminal space, aren't they?
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, it
The
was
thought
still
of
old-fashioned.
yeah, they were.
Yeah, that's it. They had all those really old tiles, and
I used to hate going to the toilet like during lesson time
because
there's nobody else in there. It was quiet.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's a liminal space, and it is a bit off-putting because it's a place within a busy place that should be at least relatively busy, and when it's quiet, it feels off.
It's because as well, though, it's almost like those old school toilets absorbed all of the cold as well. They were very cold.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And
they were really old.
They were luxurious, weren't they?
Yeah, and that cold almost carried a presence with it. I felt. You know, it was horrible. They were just not very pleasant spaces, were they? Just all those old tiles.
And they were quite, certainly our secondary school, they're quite big. Quite big building, or big rooms, if you like, which added to it, Again, especially when they were empty.
Yeah. Which primary school did you go to?
I went to Aonthorpe.
Right.
It's been rebuilt since I went.
Yeah. I think Charlotte went to Aonthorpe.
See, Amberby School was very eerie after.
Yeah.
Again, after hours, not while you were there during the day, but it was an old school, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame it's been knocked down. I mean, I can understand why it was, but it's a shame that it was.
Yeah.
It was a cool building. It had a lot of history to it, didn't it? But
another place that was demolished because of the ghosts.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, when it was demolished, that was the story Mike told. So it was in the Hull Daily Mail. One of the builders or whatever put a picture, but it was the clearest picture of a ghost ever taken.
You talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah,
Victorian
boy, and it was a fake.
Yeah.
And,
ridiculous.
I remember seeing it and thinking, if that's real, like, it's definitive proof because it can't be anything else other than a ghost.
Yeah. That was ridiculous. And you know what's such a shame to mess around with stuff like that. I hate when they do that.
Oh, it's a bit of fun though, isn't it? That was fun.
Oh my god, your cat just came in the room and I thought it was a ghost.
It's just the cat.
And this is what the podcast is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just makes you feel a bit more heightened, a little bit creeped out.
Well, that's how we create. That's
what we're looking for.
Yeah, that's how it was created, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We went away, told some spooky stories. Oh, you'd have loved it if you'd come.
I wouldn't. This is the thing. I'm like, why did you think? Let's get Rachel on the podcast.
I've got to say, I'm not
She's
sure.
She's scared of everything.
I'm not sure she would have liked it, Brett. Like, because I went to bed scared that night. I thought the black-eyed kids were going to knock on the door.
Oh God, I'm going to have to go home and watch a musical.
Well, to be fair, like, you'd have been all right. You'd have been sharing a bed with Lee because there was only so many beds.
Oh, that wouldn't have been much good. I was terrified.
Well, you could have been scared together. That's the best way.
I don't like frightening myself.
But yet
this is the scariest thing I've ever done. Apart from when I went to the toilets in year 6 and summoned the Blue Lady.
So tell us what this ritual is then. Summoning the Blue Nun.
I don't want to, because I might get it wrong and it'll frighten me because I swear every girl in England probably had a story about a ghost in the toilets at school. And if you go in there and say blue lady, and then I can't remember what the rest of it was.
Is it something about your blue baby? Or
yeah, something like
that?
I killed you or something.
I killed your blue baby or
yeah,
something.
and then it should come out of like the walls or the mirrors and like frighten you and haunt you. And the girls used to be like, oh, you've got to go in the toilet and do it. And used to like dare each other to do it. But then we always be so frightened that none of us ever wanted to go to the toilet at school.
I've literally into the old fear, doesn't it? And that's why Candyman works. And I've never dared to do it.
Oh my God, it was exactly like that.
Hey, Candyman.
I've still never done it, ever.
No?
No, I wouldn't.
Do it now?
Nope.
No, not while I'm here. Wait till I'm fully lift.
Oh, I've said this in previous episodes, you superstitious fool, aren't you?
Why risk it? There's no benefit to doing it.
Because it's a film.
I know it's a film.
I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
Based on true stories.
I've just messaged Charlotte to see if they had a blue lady in the school toilets. She must think I'm mental. But she said, oh no, it was Bloody Mary. Which is also
everybody had a different name. Like I'm sure my friends down in London had like White Lady and probably different colours all around the country, you know. Bloody Mary. Yeah, I bet that one as well.
Yeah.
But ours was a blue lady.
Blue lady. Did we have one at school? I don't think we did we?
Is this at your primary school?
Yeah, this was at primary school, but we probably brought this to secondary school as well. So yeah, it was probably there as well.
Sounds like it was a girls' toilet thing.
By the time you was in year 7, you weren't doing it anymore. It was just a primary school thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing it.
No, I don't. I just remember. I was trying to remember if I remember any girls saying that the toilets were
haunted. The toilets at Wolferton were not haunted; they were full of the smokers.
Oh yeah, so were the boys. You know, they were never that pleasant either.
The biggest fear was somebody grassing up the smokers and somebody thinking it was you. I saw someone get a right kick in for grassing up the smokers.
Brilliant.
As if anybody needed to grass up the smokers, they all stank. They came out the toilet in a puff of smoke and like,
coming out like stars in their eyes. All right then, people. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Rachel. It's been great. I think there's something about hearing stories from people. You know, it's I don't know. It's just fun, isn't it? You know, when it's like when we had Kat on. You know,
and it's in the spirit of what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, just have some fun with it while creeping each other out, and but also trying to just understand these kind of things that people have experienced, isn't it? Because I mean, that's what we say. Nearly everybody, I would say, has experienced something they can't explain, and whether they want to believe that it is supernatural, or in your case, Rachel doesn't want to believe it's something that does supernatural. But I think it's always really, cool to hear it from people that you know as well, though, because you talk about it differently, don't you? I think sometimes when you speak to strangers, you're always a little bit worried about sharing everything wholly because you're a bit sort of like.
Yeah, it's not something you talk about with people who you've not known long, unless it's a specific thing like the podcast where we've invited.
Yes.
People to send in their story, which is something I did want to point out. May have seen me and Brett were on Hull Live this weekend,
Indeed.
Finally on the up. But that was really good, and we've had a really nice, positive response.
Yes.
And, really importantly, we've had some stories being sent in now.
And some incredible stories as well. And I think, coming back to what we were just saying there, it takes a lot to share a story. And I think you do when you're with friends easier because you're not going to face the same judgment that you will if you share it with someone you don't know as well, or even with a stranger. Yeah. So we understand that. That's why there's that hesitance to share stories. And if you are a listener and you do have a story, don't forget, we will treat your story with respect, and you can share it anonymously. But if you want to share it, then by all means share it. But it's good to hear these stories, and because one, they're fun, but two, we know how personal they are to some people and how important they are to people's histories, backgrounds, because they stay with you, don't they? These things.
And they can really impact on people's lives. They remember things forever.
I was just going to say, I mean, you still remember that from your childhood, Rachel.
Yeah,
like it stayed with you that long that although some of the sort of finer details might have changed over the years as you've got older and those memories become harder to recall, but you still remember the event.
Yep, I remember the feeling, and I remember seeing that man in the window.
That's it, and that'll never go.
Yeah,
you'll always have that. So I think it's important to share that. Why hang on to that on your own? It's cool to share it. So, but yeah, we have had an amazing response from the whole live article, and thank you to everyone that's shown support by following us on the various platforms that we're on the social media platforms, submitting your stories, even just in some cases just outright sharing them out on the social media as well, like reaching out with your supportive comments, but even just sharing stories outright in the comments and things like that. But we've had on YouTube, someone commented on one of the videos, an experience they'd had. I think they commented on I think it was Mike, the episode with Mike. Someone explained that they'd experienced something in the same place, that the Yorkshireman pub, I think it was. Maybe I might be misremembering this. If I am sorry, but something they'd experienced there at the same time, like Mike had, and it was just amazing just to read it. It was just such a nice thing that someone took the time to pop a comment in there about an experience they'd had, and it really does mean a lot to us to know that people are listening, really enjoying it, and then have enjoyed it so much that they feel able to share. Yeah. So yeah, we do want to say, thank you, and anyone that's out there that wants to share a story, then do just through the usual methods, which is social media. We've got Instagram, which is at Beyond the Veil the podcast, and then on Facebook you've got Beyond the Veil the podcast, which is both a page and a group. The page is just for our announcements of episodes and just news and things like that, where the group will be just more for you to talk and just share bits and pieces on there. So just join us on there, and if you do have a story that you'd like to submit, you can do it directly through there, through Messenger, which some of you have. Thank you very much for that. But you can also do it through email, which is btvpodcaststories@gmail.com. So yeah, anything else from you, Lee?
I don't think so.
No. Anything else from you, Rachel?
No, nothing else from me.
Excellent. Well, in that case, it's goodbye from Rachel.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from Lee.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from me. So, the unexplained doesn't just happen in forgotten buildings or on desolate roads in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes it happens in ordinary homes, in familiar spaces, to people we speak to every day. If tonight's episode has indeed reminded you of something you've experienced, something you've never quite found the words for, you know where we are. You can reach us through our social channels, where Rachel may very well be the one reading your message. So keep listening and keep questioning, and remember, not everything that brushes against your world is meant to be seen. Until next time, when we meet once again beyond the veil.